guys, and welcome back to another episode of How to Dye Yarn. So this episode I'm going to show you guys how I do my speckling and one of the many other ways people do speckling as well. So for starters, I have my pans. So I've explained in the first dye video what these guys are, but I'll leave a description down below with what they are again. So we're going to start off with what materials we need in order to start the process. I have yarn that's been soaking overnight. Now for you, you can have yarn soaking for like 25-30 minutes and that'll be fine as well. I was just up late last night and I decided might as well just put them in and have them already ready in the morning. So next, for me, I usually put 2 cups of these worth into the pan. Now these are equivalent of like 2 cups per cup, so I usually do that. Now for the water in the terms of the speckling, the more water you have, the more the speckles will spread out more. The less water you have, the more speckles be more concentrated. So that's really up to you of how you want to do it. So for example, if I actually doubled those cups, I would make Carnival Chaos. And Carnival Chaos, if you've seen, the colors are so spread out. You could tell they're speckled. At the same time, the colors are so spread out to the point that it's like, it's everywhere. So if I added 4 total cups in one pan and speckled all around, the speckles will spread out more and the dyes will break out more to where it looks like it's a mix of dyes being added that are already mixed in speckles. Whereas when I'm doing with just 2 cups itself in the pan, I'm going to get more concentration of speckles. So I'm going to show you how I actually do like speckling with a strainer, speckling with a spoon, and then I'm actually going to show you how a lot of people speckle with when they just do it with dyes itself. Now the last method, what a lot of people have to do is they have to steam the yarn so that the dye doesn't bleed, or you can wash it out and that'll be fine as well. But the first 2 methods, you don't have to steam the yarn because the heat is already being added to the yarn. Therefore, you don't need to steam it afterwards. You're just adding an extra step. Most 9 times out of 10, when I finish these guys and I put them outside and rinse them out, they don't bleed. Because when you have the heat on for 25 minutes, you're technically still steaming the yarn, and you're already getting those dyes to mesh and bond with the yarn. So that's one of the ways to do it, and then we'll go from there. So I'm going to show you guys what dyes I've added. So I've literally went downstairs and just picked up random colors. So I have Intense Iris, I have Frozen, I have Bright Aqua, I have Golden Straw, and then I have Chinese Red. So those are the colors we're going to be using in terms of speckling. And then we're going to be actually using a spoon to get the speckles as well. It depends on how thick you want the speckles are, how thin, etc. So the yarn I'll be using is 100% superwash merino wool, and then I'm going to be using 100% superwash BFL. So most of the time, I always highly recommend using a mask when you're doing speckling or even mixing the dyes so that the powder doesn't come up and you inhale it. But the only reason why I'm not wearing it in this video is because I'll be doing a lot of talking, a lot of explaining of what I am doing to get the process started. So what I do a lot of times is I turn the heat on low first, add the water, and then put the yarn in. And usually by the time I put the yarn in, the water starts to simmer, and that's when I usually like to start to add the speckles, because it's already starting the process of bonding the dye and the yarn together. And you can honestly place the yarn any way you want into the pot or pan. It's just as long as if it's something you want to continue remaking, I highly recommend writing a note down saying this is how I put it in, even draw it, write down how much dye did you actually use per color or what ways did you do it. So for instance, for me, if I when I first did blue raspberry, that was a spoon dye. So I wrote a note in my ingredients. Hey, when I made this was in the pan only, and it was speckled with the spoon instead of the strainer. So that's one of the things I recommend that you use. Now it doesn't look like there's a lot of water in this, but and some people even get afraid that you might burn the yarn, but you won't. You're going to be completely fine as long as the yarn is completely like saturated and with water. You be completely fine. So now I'm just going to wait for this to simmer. The water was a little cold, so that's going to take a little bit longer to do. So I will be basically doing the same thing for this guy, so I'll be right back. So now I have my strainers. So you can get these at Walmart. They're pretty cheap. I found these guys at a flea market in California, in Huntington Beach. So I had to get like 3 or 4 of those, and then these are the ones I got at Walmart. I just like how long they are in terms of height, I guess. So these guys I use to speckle. Now, there are plenty of other ways to speckle. You can use a salt shaker, put rice in it, and then put your dye powder, and then you can do it like that. And then you get a huge amount of like speckles everywhere. For me, just a strainer base, that's how I get my speckles. That's good enough for me. So, I'm going to start with frozen. So I'm going to grab my spoon, and what I do is I just pour a little bit in there. I don't pour too much, because that's all you need. This is all you need. So what I do is I don't tap hard unless I really want it to be a huge concentration. I just tap, and a lot of times it'll spread out for you. So I'm just going to do kind of like a slither S, just to spread out those speckles. And there you go. Next, I'm going to do Chinese red. So I have a little bit more in here, but that's, again, you don't need a lot. And if you do have a lot in there, like I said, just tap lightly. If you really want a high concentration, that's all you need to do, just tap it hard. But for me, I'm just going to tap light. And just to equalize that, put a little hard tap there. And that's it. Now I'm going to do this for the next 3 colors. So now I am going to do bright aqua. And there's no right or wrongs of how to make speckles and stuff like that. It's your own colors. It's your own creativity. So you do what you want. So now I'm going to add some top here. For these strainers, since they're a little smaller, I have to bang on it a little harder. And these aren't my two favorite. Now for what I'm going to do for the next 3 colors, I'm going to put a high concentration right here. Just so a difference of what it looks like spread out speckles and highly concentrated right on the mark speckles. So I'm going to do a line here and just go around. And next I'm going to do golden straw. Take it off. Get another strainer. And just speckle it around. And again, that gets this high concentration part again. You can see it's starting to simmer more. That's good. It's a good thing. And next one I have is Intense Iris. So this one is going to be a real strong purple. And strong iris. So I gotta be careful how much I put into the pot. and this is the concentration part. The strainer's struggling a little to get the dye out, but there you go. So, and the other ways to get the speckles, a lot of people are worried about on the other side. A lot of times it goes through, it bleeds through, and as long as you have it spread out fine, you're good to go. Of course, you're going to get white. Now, the other way people do it is, and I'm not going to do it, but they spread it out, they squish it down, blend all them colors, flick it up, put it on the other side, and do the same thing. And that's also how you kind of get those colors blending into each other and mixing and what forth. I'm not going to do that today, but maybe I can show it in another video if you guys are interested. So this is done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a cover on there. I'm going to let it sit for 25 minutes. So 25 minutes, that's typically how long you would steam the yarn. 25 minutes gives this guy plenty of time to consume all those colors, and we'll see if it bleeds a little or not when it's done. So now we're going to go into this guy. I'm going to switch these guys real quick, and I'll be right back. Alright, now we're going to go on to using the same colors, but we're going to spoon dye them. So now, I'm going to take my strainers out. And all I'm going to do, I don't put a lot on the spoon because with this amount of dye, it's gonna pop. So a lot of times what I do is I kind of just go with the flow. I don't hold any restrictions or anything. I just flick it out. So this I have frozen, so I'm gonna just do that. And these you'll get really sharp, right on the dots colors. And this one is Chinese red. Again, I'm just flicking it, or just waving my hand around or wrist around. I'm not constricting anything. I'm also using my finger to tap it. And this is actually how I make blue raspberry. So it's kind of cool. So if you want to quickly see the results real quick, just look up that blue raspberry and you'll see what the possibilities are. So now I have bright aqua. This one is golden straw. This one I might have a more concentration point in some spots. Just because. Okay, last but not least, I have Intense Iris. So I'm just gonna speckle it around more. There you go. So those are the two differences of speckling and stuff. So this will eventually start to spread out, kind of start looking more like this. So once this is pulled out, you'll actually see it more speckled. I like putting striking amounts of speckles, so you'll definitely see a difference. Now you can add the lightest amount, the darkest amount. Really doesn't matter. To be honest, it's your creation. It's what you want to do. Now the next thing I'm gonna show you is how to hand paint the yarn. So this requires you to have a table, but for me, I'm gonna use my own pan. I'm going to speckle in the pan, and then I'm going to steam it from there. So the reason you have to steam that is because you're not applying heat right away. See, with like this is adding heat. The way you hand paint it, it's not going to be heat applicated right away. And for me, once I steam it, the colors will stay a lot more. But that's the way I know how to do it. I'm sure there's other ways to do it as well. But that's actually one of the ways I used to, when I first started dyeing yarn, I made gypsy eyes, and the speckles from gypsy eyes I was hand painted. So I would do it in the crock pot, with all them colors, and then for the speckling I would hand paint it and then steam it. So I'm going to put these guys 25 minutes, and then I'll show you the results later for these guys. I'm really excited to see the results. Alright, so now I'm going to show you the last method that I don't really use too much, but I feel like for experiments or to have fun, this would be something you guys can do. So there's plenty of ways to do the speckling. You can do it with your fingers, you can do it with a fork, or you can do it with a brush. I'm gonna do like a mix of everything except for the brush, because I don't have any brushes. A lot of them are old and are no longer in use. So the first one is going to be frozen. So I'm just going to use my fingers and just flick it. That's all you need to do is you get like some really pops of speckles. And get some dark, really striking parts too. And you can turn it around, speckle it there. And there you go. Next one I'm going to do is Chinese red. And this method is you're gonna get a very different result just because the dye is already mixed. So for me, I've mixed this a certain way to where I can get a certain high concentration of the Chinese red. There's plenty of other ways people could do it. You could do 4 grams to 100 grams of water, 2 grams to 100 grams of water, or 6 grams to 100 grams of water, and so on and so forth. It depends on how dark or how light you want that color to be. I believe this is 4 grams to 100 grams of water. So when I say 4 grams to 100 grams of water, the 4 grams is the actual dye powder. So I have all sorts of mixes, all sorts of concentrations. So this you can tell, you can see the Chinese red is a little light. For me, I mix these up and then I preserve them. The only thing I need to do, they always stay fresh to me, the only thing I need to do is always shake them first in order for any colors that are sitting at the bottom be mixed up. Now I'm going to do is 422 Bright Aqua. So I'm going to do it with a fork. And that's all you really need to do is you just pat it down, mix it all around, and just go crazy. Just kind of go crazy. You can do that as well. You can flick it. That's what I usually did with Gypsy Eyes' speckle. Is I had the brush, or I even had a fork, and I just flicked it around. And what it does is it just does a striking of colors. Next one I'm going to do is Golden Straw. In Golden Straw you're going to get more of an intense yellow, greenish yellow color when it's mixed. And for me, since it's so yellowish, I'm just going to use my fingers and pat it around. Get more of a concentration. And you can see with the steam, it's starting to come out really nice. So I'm just moving it around, just having some fun. To me, it looks like it's coming out really nice. All the different speckles, even the reds are mixing a little bit more, where it's going to become more spacious. The last one is Intense Iris. So, you can even use a syringe. And just squeeze it out little by little. Get some random dark spots. And I'm just barely pressing on it. And you could tell when I was pressing hard and when I was pressing light onto the skein. And then there you go. So you can see there's a lot of random specks. There's like this really cool mix of colors right here. And when it looks really funky to some people right now, but when you knit it up, this will all be randomized. That's what's so speckly cool about it. So that's just one of the many ways I do it. So now what I am going to do is I'm going to grab a bag. So I'm going to get a bag like this. You can buy this at Walmart in like the sandwich section. These are like sandwich bags. As long as there's no ties, you're good to go. So what I do is I put it in. I get all the air out as much as possible. Twist it up. Tie a knot. And then when I'm done, I steam this for 25 minutes. Now once it's steamed, I wash it, see if it bleeds. If it does, wash it again. If it doesn't, hang it out to dry. And then there you go. And that's how you hand paint speckled yarn. So it looks like it's about ready. You can see it steaming. So it looks like it's ready for the yarn to go in. So for anyone who's doing the steaming, all you gotta do, I roll mine up so this guy doesn't hang out. So this guy doesn't hang out and then gets onto the side and then the plastic burns. So what I do is I roll it up and then I place it underneath, stick it in there, grab the plate, I put it on top, and then I wait for 25 minutes. Alright, so these guys are cooled down. Hopefully the wind doesn't bother the mic too much. Cross my fingers on that. So this is the finished product. This is the one we did the strainer with the speckling, and this is the one we did with the spoon. Now I can tell you already, the Chinese reds, it clumped a little in terms of the speckles, so I already know right away that I'm going to have to wash it at least once to make sure it clears out. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the one with the strainer that we speckled and 100% superwash merino wool out first. So any way you want to do it, I go one at a time. Actually, I might be wrong. It's not bleeding at all. But I'll still wash it just in case. So I take it out, and it's already done. So this is the speckles that you will get. And if you can't see it, I'm going to post it later on at the end of the video what the results will look like. So the speckles came out really pretty. And like I said, there's going to be a lot of white. It's all a matter of how you place your skeins out. So it came out really pretty. And here's the second one. Oh my goodness, this looks so pretty. So even though there's white on the back, the way the skein is, you're not going to get a solid white all the time when you go into the rounds of knitting. Like I said, if you ever want speckles everywhere like this, I highly recommend you just spread it out a lot more. Try to get it spread out as much as possible, or do a single skein in it and just spread it out. It doesn't, you know, it's all a matter of how you want to do it, what you want to do. It looks like it's been equally distributed. This is really, really pretty to me. I think it came out super nice. So again, if you can't really see all the speckles and stuff, I'll definitely show a photo later. So far, it came out super pretty. Okay. And what I also like to check is I'll do this, and I can see that there's a little bit of purple in here. Surprisingly, there's not red. But in this one, I see clumps. Even when I put my finger down on it, I can see red. So definitely this guy's got to be washed. Alright, so this one is BFL. So BFL can sometimes be hard to dye yarn on sometimes for me when I do speckling. But most of the time it's been good. So this is BFL. And this is one with the spoon. So the spoon, you're probably going to get more condensed color. Let's see. A little bit of speckling. So you see a little bit of speckling here, and then you kind of see strikes of the colors. So you see lots of sharp strikes. And if you can't see it, I'll show the result later in the video with photos. I think it looks really pretty. Like I said, I did that. You can see a little bit of purple and red in the water. It needs to be washed. So this is what the other skein looks like when you're spoon dyeing. I think it came out pretty awesome. So you get that strikes of different colors, and then it's just really pretty to me how like spoon dyeing you can get speckles and also get like solid intenses as well. So. And last but not least, this is the last one. Remember we did the hand painting. So this guy, so with this, if you ever want to reuse your bags, you can, as long as you don't have holes in them. I actually think I only have 5 of these left because I don't steam anymore, just because everything's through the pan when it comes to speckling. So, to me it doesn't matter if I get a hole in this or not. I can't get the thing open anyways. So this is what it looks like when you speckle with hand painting. Definitely different, more variegations. It definitely bled out a little bit in certain spots, but that's also because I squished it. And if you really don't want to squish, if you really want to make sure the speckles stay, don't squish it at all. And just drop it in the bag, twist it. Like I said, I try to get the air out as much as possible. You can keep air in if it's just one bag, but when you're steaming it, whatever's air is in that bag that's already enclosed, it puffs out. So you kind of push it against walls, and if you have the heat on at a certain, if you have the heat on at a certain level, you're gonna start burning that plastic. So this is what the result is. Really pretty. And these are all finished products. Really pretty. I like them. So I forgot to mention that when I was steaming it, I kept it where I kept the temperature at. I kept it in between the medium and low. You want to get it to where it's just starting to steam. It's not extremely boiling the water, because if you keep it boiling, you're actually gonna eventually burn that plastic. So you want to keep it at a comfortable level, like at a simmer, just like how you're pan dyeing, so that it's given enough time to steam. So whether you're steaming the yarn or you're pan dyeing it, it's still going to be 25 minutes. That's going to be like the go-to, remember, 25 to 30 minutes depending on your comfortability. For me, 25 minutes is enough to get that dye, get that speckle going. So, so one of the things I would ask to keep in mind when you're speckling, the yarn does break. So when the yarn breaks, different colors come out from that powder, because with Dharma or with any dyes, you mix other colors together to create that dark blue, to create that purple, to create that fluorescent type. It all gets mixed with other colors. So every now and then you'll get colors, like for me, I have twilight gray, even though that is, not twilight gray, I'm sorry. When I have purple haze, even though that's discontinued, I still have a jug of it. When I speckle, it actually breaks. It turns, and that purple haze gets into like a red or like a dark pink, and there's some like other light purples in there when it breaks that yarn. So when you are dyeing colors and you want to remember what colors do what when you're dyeing it, write that note down with your dye. Sometimes they'll, when there's new stock comes in, sometimes it won't break anymore, sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. This is a matter of what what batch you get. So my other advice to you is, say you want to add solid colors with the speckles. Depending on how much solid color you want to add in. For me, what I do is at first I do not add any water in yet. I mix the dye, or I have the dye already mixed, and then with the dye stock I add 1 cup of either a teaspoon or 2 teaspoons of the dye, or 4, whatever, depending on how dark you want that color. So you add a cup worth, 2 cups worth, whatever amount that you want to add per teaspoon. You do that first, and you add it to the pan. So you splat it all around, whatever, what have you. As long as there's a level of water on the pan, you're good to go to add the speckles and start from there. Put the 25 minutes on. If you see that your skein it doesn't have water in it, or you could tell like it's just straight contact pan and skein, you might want to add a little bit of water in that section. Now whether that solid color will bleed out or not, that's all part of the experience. For me, before I speckle, I check to see if there's enough water in there to start adding speckles, and if there isn't, I add the water and then I do the speckling next. Because the speckling is really important to make sure how much water you have in it and stuff. That's the important part. So there's other methods in terms of how people dye and do the speckling and also do the solids. I've done the technique, I've seen other people do the technique. This is probably one of the most common techniques I've seen people do. The other technique I see other people do as well is when they do the speckling, they actually squish it out, turn it, flip it over, and do the same thing. They speckle and squish it out, and then they actually do more speckling, but they don't mess with that speckling. Does that make sense? So they actually put the dye out, and then squish all around on the skein, turn it around, do it again, and then when they get the yarn to simmer, that's when they actually add speckles to keep. So I thought that was really, really cool. So hopefully I went over everything okay, and if I didn't, I'm leaving the instructions down below in the description. And if you guys have any questions, or if I went too fast, please by all means email me, message me, or give me a comment and say, hey, I have a question about this. What do you recommend? So that's basically it. They said there's plenty of other ways to do speckling. You can speckle in crock pots. You can speckle in pans like this, in this size. And you could do the same method there, as long as you have the water in and stuff like that. You're pretty good to go. Like I said, the more water, the more speckle it will spread out, and the less water, the more concentrated the speckles will be. It depends on how much speckling you want to put in. It depends on how much dye of blues and purples you want to put in, or less or more. So